Afternoon, welcome to Colney. Press conference ahead of tomorrow night's game against Brighton just finished. Alan Irvine and Ivo Pinto both doing a bit of talking today. Paddy, Davitt alongside me. Team news sounds like we're probably unlikely to see Alex Tetty and Tim Closer. Would you say it was fair?
Yeah, that's a fair call, Dave. Yeah, Closer definitely not. Obviously, we know he damaged back of his right knee Good Friday. Alan Irvine said after Preston Easter Monday, probably took him 10 days. Today he said positive that he's reacted quite well in the intervening period since Monday, but yeah, definitely not for tomorrow. And he basically would only give us a timeline along the lines of back before the end of the season, given there's only 2 more games, and you'd think probably Leeds might be more nearer the mark. Alex Tette's only trained today for the first time. Missed the Preston game. He's had a back spasm issue. Increasingly doing less and less training, just getting ready for the game. So I would look at it and think, given it's Brighton tomorrow night, a motivated Brighton who need a win for the title, that's going to be a very full-on affair, I think, particularly in the midfield areas where they're quite strong. So I think he might come too soon for him. I think Leeds would be more of a shout. And other than that, no other fresh injuries other than the ones we already knew about, Jarvis and Louis Thompson.
Yeah, he said there was a busy training pitch, lots of players out there, so yeah. I suppose that's good from his point of view, isn't it? Very complimentary of Chris Hughton and the job that Brighton have done, and seem to put it down to sort of the system that's in place, that the organisation that I suppose Hughton has put in place has allowed their more creative players to shine.
Yeah, that's a fair comment. And effectively the fact that he's built something there. It isn't just he's gone in and 6 months later. I mean, they had a great season last season, only just missed out on automatic on the final day. So to maintain that momentum, get over that tremendous heartache, if you want, of going so close and then missing out, and they didn't quite raise it again in the playoffs last season. To come again and actually come to Carrow Road, not only already promoted, but with a very good chance of getting the title, it shows you the job he's done. And of course, a lot of Norwich fans always colour your view of what Chris did here, because it kind of went south really after a decent first season, mid-table in the Premier League, and then wasn't able quite to replicate that. And I think the feeling was, the style of football, the brand of football, it didn't excite, did it too much? But I would take a look at, and I wrote about it earlier in the week, that it was a tough job. It was a tough job here, following Paul Lambert, and also he's not doing it in the Championship with Norwich. He was doing it in the Premier League, and then trying to punch them above their weight, and it wasn't quite working, that formula. Hence why the board made the change that season, brought in Neil Adams, didn't they? But you can't argue with his record now. To do what he's done now at Brighton, as I say, after last season's disappointment, following on from he got Newcastle out of this division, he's a very good football league manager. There's no two ways about it. And as Alan said, a lot of that is based on his organisation. Yes, they've got the X factor players with the knockouts, and I like the lad Solly March who's in and around England under 21s. So they've got some quality individuals, but I think ultimately their strength is their collective organisation and what they do without the ball as much with the ball.
Yeah, I'd like to see him get a positive reception from the Norwich fans tomorrow night, because you can't speak to anyone in football without them saying how much of a nice guy Chris Hughton is, really, can you? But no. As much as things did end on a bit of a sour note, the fact that he's a good man and he's got so much respect in the game, I would hope there's at least a polite reception. Would you go along with that?
I don't see why there wouldn't be. Time moves on. Norwich were back in the Premier League before Chris Hughton, so it's not like it's been a complete downward spiral since Chris and Norwich parted ways. And ultimately, I think even if you were a Norwich fan who weren't happy with what he was producing and were glad that he actually went, I think you can still respect the job he's done there, and you would like to think that he deserves at least a very polite reception, and hopefully, Ivo Pinto actually just popped into my head, who we spoke to prior to Alan. I think he struck it right. They had their party down on the South Coast Monday when promotion was confirmed. So let's not let them have another party here. Norwich will need to do everything they need to win the game, but ultimately maybe final whistle. Fair enough, because it's irrelevant. In terms of Norwich's destiny this season. So why not sort of recognise the achievement, which, as I say, is, given last season's disappointment, you can't underestimate what Brighton have done, and I think they will have a good go in the Premier League as well.
Yeah, Ivo Pinto on media duty, as we say, and he's in the quite nice position that he didn't play that 5-0 defeat. He missed about 5-6 weeks for a bit of an injury, so he said that it's something that the players are obviously aware of, but it's definitely stopped short of sort of revenge, didn't it?
He did, but then I thought Alan Irvine, when I pressed him on that, he was quite clear that, you know, as much as you have to put things to one side and move on, good or bad results, basically you would feel that there would be a little bit at the back of people's heads who were involved that day from a Norwich perspective, that they would want to put the record straight, because ultimately, you know, it wasn't good enough and they were a long way short. And Alan Irvine, his words today, he said once the first goal went in, which if people sort of recall was a calamity with Michael McGovern and a back pass from Alex Tetty, Glenn Murray's nipped in, scored, but he said after the second went in, Norwich, quote, caved in, and unfortunately we've seen that too often this season at various points, and it doesn't cast this set of players in a very favourable light for me. So yeah, I would imagine not just the Norwich captain for obvious reasons, but the rest of that squad would want to maybe send a statement that they are far better than what they showed on the South Coast.
Yeah, he described it as a painful day, didn't he? So me and you aren't going to forget. We covered that one, didn't we? We're not going to forget that day in a hurry.
Yeah.
I'll never forget Tim Close's strange pirouette on the halfway line. That was fairly disastrous. Ivo, obviously, building up to tomorrow night's game. Russell Martin was a player that you asked Alan about as well, and he seemed to suggest that he thought that whoever the new head coach is in the summer, that they will probably have he thought that Russell Martin will probably be high up in their thinking as one of those players who might stick around.
Yeah, on the evidence of the longevity he's had here, as Alan Irvine rightly said, he's played under a lot of different managers, so it's not a case of, you know, there was only one guy here prior to, and he is the guy who Russell Martin owes his longevity to. You know, he's actually proved through successive tenures that you know, he is, whether, you know, a lot of fans agree or disagree now, and we have this infernal debate about which is his best position now. You can't argue with the guy is still a major influence in that dressing room. It's obvious, and I would think, yeah, in the interest of a little bit of continuity, you know, as much as we're hearing about it needs a major overhaul and radical change, true, but you also need a little bit of continuity. And why wouldn't you want a Russell Martin around the place? You know, Johnny House and those type of characters. Ivo Pinto today made it quite clear, you know, he doesn't want to go anywhere, he won't be seeking a move. I think there's an element of lads who are willing to sort of be a bridge between what's been a disappointing season and hopefully the brighter things to come ahead. So now that's a different debate then if you say, well, is Russell Martin going to be a front-line player next season? Is he going to start every game? Is he going to lead the side on the pitch? That's
positionally as well.
Yeah,
right accent.
Yeah, but in terms of an influence around the group and in the changing room and that conduit between players and a head coach, yeah, I'd keep him in, no question.
I spoke to Russ earlier in the week. You probably would have seen a couple of articles on our website this week. He was doing an event for Wix, who are the official DIY partner of the EFL. It was a Kits for Kids event, which was very nice. He was giving new kit to old cat and under nines, just the sort of thing you want to see Norwich City's captain doing in the community. And he spoke about the fact that he didn't want it to be Brighton's title party tomorrow night because he's a Brighton boy. He'll have a lot of family and friends there, so he doesn't want to see them win tomorrow night. One last thing on Ivo Pinto. I asked him whether he sees his future here. He's still got 2 years left on his contract, and he seemed fairly confident that he would be sticking around, and he says that he's enjoyed it a lot here, but clearly nobody can be 100% certain of their place at the moment.
Well, the reality is the big imponderable at the minute is the identity of the new head coach. Until that person's in the building, as much as Stuart Webber's here and he's at the head of the football new model moving forward, ultimately you would think a lot of these players' futures will hinge on the identity of that guy and whether they feel that the players already here will have a role to play, because until we know who that person is, then Ivo Pinto's right. You know, on one level, of course, he clearly enjoys his football here. He's loved by most of the fans, I think. You know, he's got 2 years left. He's not going to, I don't get any sense that he would agitate for a move and want to move on. So that's good to hear. You know, you need that sort of buy-in from the player, but ultimately it's whether the new prospective head coach feels he is the sort of player he wants to build something around. So, and that applies to Alex Tetty, was sat here a week or two back. He's another one. He's got a year left on his contract, but he was quite clear whether he's back here after the summer depends entirely on the new head coach, because they will have their own ideas, and Stuart Webber will obviously be integral to that process. Having watched, you know, them in the last few weeks, he will be making up his own mind. So, yeah, I think in terms of players and destinations, it's all to be decided really. And as I say, until the new man's on board and you know, we can start to see some actual sort of what the identity is going to be here, then it's, you know, you can't really say any of the players with certainty are going to be here next season, because, you know, it's not been good enough. Ivo Pinto himself said there needs to be change this summer, and ultimately the degree of change will be whatever Webber and the new head coach feels is necessary.
He's good at the old PR as well, isn't he? He managed to get in the thanks to the fans for their help in, you know, keeping the home form steady. So he knows what he's doing on that side of things, doesn't he? Just finally, before we wrap, in terms of team selection, you asked Alan about whether it's a game for young lads. Obviously, everyone's going to be hoping to see a bit more of James Maddison in this final 3 games of the season, but he seemed to suggest that this might not be the perfect game for the young lads.
I think that's a fair comment. Yeah, I think you know, you can file Brighton in the Fulham category, and a little bit more given, you know, Brighton have already gone up. So streetwise, very experienced, won't give anything away cheaply. Yeah, I don't think you would expect James Maddison to be on the starting team sheet, but certainly I'd hope he's done enough at Preston to retain his place on the bench, and then as the game unfolds, we just don't know how it's going to pan out at this stage. But if it was another Preston scenario where, you know, Norwich are in front on the score sheet, they're kind of on the front foot in terms of the flow of the game, why wouldn't you give him a go? Because he's certainly going to be super confident after what happened at Preston on Monday. But fair play to Alan Irvine. I think he's managed that element quite well, because I know there was this almost demand to basically wholesale get all the young kids in now and salvage them in from the end of the season, but I think he's played it well. I mean, Alex Pritchard, he for me is still in that young category. He's basically played him every single game he's been available. Josh has now got a start, you know, at Preston. Jacob's in and around it, of course, as he has been all season. And now he's integrated Maddison. So I think little by little is the right way to go, rather than, you know, goodbye 5 or 6 of the old timers and in you come, because that probably could work against them when you're playing at Brighton, when you're playing at Fulham. So yeah, I wouldn't expect Maddison to start, but certainly on the bench.
I guess Ben Godfrey, with Alex Tetty being injured, would probably keep his place on the bench as well, won't he? So, well, let's see tomorrow night.
Yeah, we'll see.
Right, thanks, Pad. Michael and Paddy will be with you tomorrow night at Carrow Road for that game against Brighton. Plenty to get your teeth into on the websites already. Full preview in tomorrow's papers. And yeah, everything you could need tomorrow night at pinkham.com. Thanks.